everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and right there is Nikki Kinzer.
Woo!
Woo!
Hello!
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm so good.
Yes, it's...
Feeling all graceful.
Yeah, and Christmassy.
Christmassy. Tis the season.
Tis the season. But we're not going to talk about holidays.
No.
We're done with that.
We're so done with that. I wash my hands of holidays. No, we are talking about creating a vision for yourself, and I can't wait to hear what is on your mind here. Before we do that, however, make sure you head over to takecontroladhd.com, get to know both of us a little bit better, listen to the show right there on the website, or subscribe to the mailing list right there on the homepage. Make sure you don't miss a single episode. Connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at takecontroladhd, and you can always call us, 503-664-4ADD. Okay.
I had gotten a message from a listener, and I just want to say thank you. It was very kind. They listened to us way back when we were taking control of the organizing podcast, and that wasn't even us. Are you kidding?
Yeah, I know. It was like two other people.
It was two other people so long ago, but it was such a nice note because she said, I didn't know if I would still listen with the emphasis being on ADHD, but I do, and I love it, and it's so helpful, and thank you so much, and it was just really kind. So I just thought that was really cool that I know there's more people like her that have been with us from the very beginning and have stuck with us. And, that just makes us really happy. And I appreciate so much them taking the time to even write those words and send them. So anyway, just want to shout that out and say thank you, thank you, thank you.
I am so glad to hear that. It is really on my mind because as you know, I spent much of last week migrating all of our back catalog, all of the back catalog to new servers so that we can keep those things alive. And I can't tell you, it's so tedious. And I kept thinking to myself, why am I doing this? Like, do we really need to keep all these episodes? There's so many podcasts that only keep like the most recent 50 episodes, and then you're just lost for the back catalog. Mm-hmm. And it's emails like that remind me why it's important to do this. And it's so motivating to hear those stories. So thank you so much. And yes, all of the back catalog from episode 1 all the way up to 233 as of today are still available on the website, and you can listen to them anytime. We thank you so much for being a part of it. I actually got some feedback too. I got an email from a listener because last week, or it was a couple weeks ago now, we talked about gifts. Mm-hmm. And I recommended, this is funny to me, of all of the gifts that I recommended, can you imagine which one got more feedback? You remember? We talked about bags. We talked about 1Password. We talked about that handy butterfly knife pen for fidgeters.
Oh, gosh, I don't know because they were all good.
23andMe genetic testing.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome. People are really interested in that.
Yes. And so I got people who would write me and share with me their genetic history. I will not say names, but I have a number of people who actually really resonate with the fact that I have Yakut in my history.
That's awesome.
That we are amongst the group that has more Neanderthal than average in our history. So thank you so much to everybody who's written about that. It's just really gratifying to hear that one connected with you. So it's a fun gift. 23andme.com. All right, that's it. Now, can we talk about vision? I have a vision. I have a vision that you're going to tell me how to create a vision.
Yes. I am.
All right,
I'm going to do that. I say we're done with holidays, and I know that when people listen to this, they're going to be right smack in the middle of the holidays. So I get that, but I also think that the end of the year is a great time, and often a time where people start thinking about what they want in the new year. Right? It's a great time to kind of reflect on what's going well, what could be better, what do you want to change, what do you want to improve, and some people may call these New Year's resolutions, right? We've talked about this in the past many, many times, right. Where there's that focus on a very specific goal, whether it's getting organized or losing weight. But also, this is a time for entrepreneurs like you and myself who may be setting goals for our businesses, coming up with new ideas, things that we would like to see in the new year. I'm hoping that there are listeners out there that are considering one of my coaching groups, maybe working with me individually because they're looking for some kind of change in their life. So, there's a lot of different things that people are kind of reflecting reflecting back at this end of the year. But what's really interesting to me is that one of the hardest questions for my clients to actually answer is when I ask them to explain to me what their vision is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I totally get this.
Yeah.
I totally get this, because here you are, you're clipping along. You may even know exactly where you're going to be in the next 30 days, right? A month from now is not a big deal. But when you talk about vision, it's so easy to feel completely rudderless, like you are just adrift in day to day or month to month.
Right. And it's hard. And we use these big words where, like, okay, well, I just want to get more organized. I want to be more organized. Okay, but right. What does that mean? Like, because we've talked about this before too. It's like, it's different for everybody. So your definition is going to be different than mine. Well, I want to be a better time manager, but what does that really mean? Like, what is it that you're really looking for? How are you going to know you have it?
Well, and also because it's sort of a tool that, maybe it's a tool that yields, some other benefit. Like, you want to be a better time manager because why? Like,
right.
What's that going to get you if you become suddenly an expert in time? How are you going to use it? So
exactly. Yeah. Very good point. So these are hard questions to ask or, to answer when they're hard questions to ask too, but they're very hard questions to answer when you haven't really thought through all of those things. And I'll tell you what usually happens when I do ask. What I usually get, I would say 8 times out of 10 is I hear the stories of their mistakes. I hear the stories of all of the reasons why they feel like they can't do something, and they kind of rehash those challenges and their struggles and their limiting beliefs. And so instead of looking forward, they're staying in that muckiness. I don't know if that's a word, but I'm going to make it up.
It is now. Amen.
They're staying in the mucky, rather than really trying to see what's ahead. What is that vision? And so, it's really kind of taking a brief moment and, listening to what they have to say, because I don't want to cut them off. I don't want to be rude. I want to hear, what they believe and such. But then I want them to kind of go back and answer my original question. Let's not focus on what you can't do, but tell me what it would be like if you could.
So powerful.
Yes. And so it really kind of starts to shift, like, oh, you're right. You never asked me like why I couldn't do something. You were asking me what I wanted. And so it makes that shift. So today's topic is how to create that vision for yourself. Like, what if you could? What do you need to do to get that vision? So before I do that, though, I want to briefly talk about what happens when we don't have a vision. And I'm going to actually... Today is a day where I'm going to have all kinds of analogies.
Oh, good.
And it starts with this. Imagine that you're traveling to a new place, a new destination. You've never been there before. You don't know how to get there. So you can either get there with directions or you can get there without directions. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if you go without directions, what happens? Any guesses?
You get lost.
Yeah, you get lost.
Yeah. And you likely, it's sort of presumptive. You probably won't get there.
You're not going to get there. Yeah. And if you do get there by the grace of God and miracles, it's you're not going to be on time. That's for sure. Right. You're going to certainly be frustrated. But most likely what's going to happen is you're not going to get there. You're going to get so frustrated. You're going to give up and you're going to go home, and you're not going to arrive at all. You're just going to say, this is done. I'm done with this. So if we think about how many times in our lives we've wanted to do something, but it never happened. That's going towards something without direction, right? Mm-hmm. Without vision. So then we flip that around and we say, okay, well, when we do have direction, what happens? Well, we get there, right? We do get there.
Right.
But I'm realistic. And that's the funny thing with ADHD is you still may not get there on time.
Of all the directions of the world, you're still not going to get there on time.
You still may not get there on time. And that's okay.
That's the thing I resonate with. I was expecting that to come.
Yes. And it may not even be in the exact route that you expected. Because, let's be honest. We're, creative, courageous people. We want to take side roads. We want to take shortcuts. Maybe you want to stop for lunch. Maybe you see something on the way that you want to take some moments and sightsee. There's a lot to do.
Probably that happens.
There's a lot to do between destination A and destination B. So I get that. But the whole point is that no matter how you get there, you get there. And so our chances when we have vision, when we have a plan, our success rate it increases dramatically, because then what we've done here is we've really put more intention to our actions, right? Mm-hmm. We've really planned and prepared for this journey. So that's what creating a vision is. So I'm going to give you another analogy, Pete, right? Aren't you excited?
Oh, I'm so there. Yes.
We're talking about vision. So I'm encouraging everybody who's listening to this to visualize. So think of a bridge. All right.
I'm on a bridge.
Yes, you're on a bridge, and you're on one side of the bridge right now. And your destination is to be on the other side. You want to be on the other side. So, and that's your vision. So what we want to first do is reflect on where you are right now. So asking yourself some questions. What's working? What's not working? What are your strengths? What are your biggest challenges? And what's missing in your life? So we're really just kind of looking at the good and the bad, this part, because we don't want to just focus on the bad. We want to focus on the good too, because, there's a lot of good too, right? So we want to kind of look at as a picture of where we are now. And then we want to paint the picture or paint the vision of where we want to be. So when we do that, that's when you start really thinking about, okay, what am I doing when I'm on this other side of the bridge? What's working? What am I feeling? Who am I with? What do I see? What do I smell? What am I doing on my free time? What's this balance of work and life? And, really getting an idea of what it is that you want. And that's getting to the other side of the bridge. Okay. So now you have it. And so now you got to figure out how you're going to remember it, because that's the other kind of funny thing with ADHD. We forget things.
I don't know anything about that. I'm sure I don't remember ever having that problem.
Right. And I know this was important to me, but I don't remember why. So this is why it's important that we take this vision and we do put it somewhere, whether we write it out in our thoughts, or write our thoughts onto a piece of paper is what I mean. We put it in a journal, a vision board, whatever resonates with you, however you want to do it, but just somehow capture it so that you don't forget what this vision looks like.
Can I tell you something? I think this is really cool. And it makes me think of a story. I had a client that this was in a business context. It was working with a board of a university, and they were talking about very similar things. Now, we're of course talking about this from the context of ADHD and having a personal kind of direction, not being so rudderless. But this was a whole team of highly seasoned people that were really struggling as a group to get to this future state. And so they had this long meeting about it, and they did all this great stuff. And they gave their designer a task and said, hey, go create us this vision board that is going to help us, visualize where we want to be. And they came back they designed a cover of like Forbes magazine, right? Dated it 2030, and wrote a 3,000 word feature article as if somebody else was writing about the institution having achieved the success that they knew they wanted.
Oh, what a great idea.
That is such a great idea. And so some of these tools, like creating a vision board, is great, and you can use these tools to really make it stick. Designing a cover of Forbes magazine, if you have the skills and the tools to do it, those are great things to do. It makes it that much more sort of visceral and tangible to see what's on the other side of this bridge. What will my future look like when I have already achieved my goal?
And you're making it into the present, because you're like, here is 2030, right? And so, but you know what that reminds me of too? I don't know if I don't do this anymore, but I know you guys used to do this, the Christmas letter, kind of the summary of, how life went.
That was never
year.
A me thing. That was always my lovely wife.
Your lovely wife, yes. But I could see somebody doing that too. Like, write yourself a letter, 5 years from now, or write that Christmas letter that you used to write to your family and friends, updating them and telling them like where you are in your life and what you're doing. Wouldn't that be interesting?
This is like I don't know if this is apocryphal, but it's the story of Jim Carrey writing himself that like $10,000 check.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah,
that's a good story. I would not recommend, if you're struggling with ADHD, to start writing yourself checks that you then schedule to cash at any point in the future. That's probably not a good strategy, but it really is motivating.
Yeah. The point is really good.
Yes,
for sure.
Right. All right. I'm sorry I derailed you.
No, that's
what's
good.
Next?
Well, and the other thing that may resonate with somebody, because if they don't want to do a vision board, or maybe they write a few things on a piece of paper, but you could simply just find a picture of a bridge. Now that you've heard us talk about this, just get a picture of a bridge and stick it up somewhere where you see it every day. And that just can be a simple reminder of you're going on the other side. That's what you're aiming for. So it can be a simple thing too. But anyway, so eventually what is next is that we want to take this vision and we're going to have to figure out how to get there, right? So if you're staying along with this analogy with me, it's how do you travel across the bridge? And what do you do when you're stuck in traffic? Oh. Because that's going to happen. So this is where, and this show is not about that. This show is just how to create the vision. But just to kind of give you an idea of what's next is, figuring out what are the next action steps, to keep you moving forward, identifying those roadblocks, identifying what extra resources you need, so that you don't feel like you have to travel this bridge alone. You can have, a partner in your car with you. You can have your whole family with you if you want. Right. And if your car breaks down on the bridge, what if you're the one that breaks down on the bridge? Who do you call? What do you need to keep moving forward? So those are the things that, in coaching and, and some of the different products and stuff and workshops and things that I do, and just working with people one-on-one, this is the meat of it. This is where we kind of figure out, okay, what is it that you need to do? Mm-hmm. So for the sake of today's show, what we're focusing on is just that first step in how to create that vision and how to answer that question. So when it's asked of you, what is that vision for you? What is it that you want? You can now have a way to figure that out. That's not so overwhelming.
I love it. I love it. This is, and I think, like I was saying, I need this too. I need these little reminders personally, even though we talk about this stuff every week, to keep thinking about what's out there beyond, what's on the other side of that bridge, the daily kind of just buckle shuffle of tasks, so that I'm not completely rudderless when it comes to 6 months, a year, 10 years down the road. Where do we want to go? And the end of the year is a great time to do that because, a lot of people are taking vacation to be home for the holidays and you're going to have some more time to reflect and when we have talked about New Year's resolutions before, we've always been really encouraging about it. I mean, I think it's great. You want to start something new? Start it. Let's do it, Yeah. And again, for those who haven't heard, I mean, we kind of have a shared sort of philosophy around New Year's resolutions that, because the folks who are contrarian, right, who don't like New Year's resolutions tend to come at it from one of these arguments that, basically, why should you need a time of the year to make a change in your life? Mm-hmm. And I think where we have come down in the past is if you need to make a change in your life, but you haven't been able to do so, why not use the shared momentum of New Year's to give you that leverage that you may not otherwise have? Absolutely. It's a shared experience. Make it a shared experience. So this is great stuff. We have some reminders for folks. Yes? Yes. Speaking of new goals, we have group coaching is open now for the sessions that are going to be starting in January. So perfect time for that. So definitely register soon to save your spot because the deadline is the end of December and I'm not offering as many this time. So check that out. And we also have some new workshops that I'm holding in the new year. There's 4 different workshops that you can choose from. And so I encourage you to check out the website for more information on those. And of course, if you have any questions, you can email me directly at nikki@takecontroladhd.com. And I'm happy to help you. I think those workshops are great. These hour-long, jump in, learn a new skill, and change your life. I think they're just fantastic. So I'm so glad you've got those on the calendar. Yeah. And I think that's it. So there we go. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright. Thank you all so much for downloading and listening and sharing your stories with us. We sure appreciate hearing it. And I hope you're enjoying a great holiday season so far. On behalf of Nikki, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll catch you next week on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.